Church calling to order the Park and Recreation Commission meeting for Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. And calling it to order. Why don't we start with commissioner updates? Saul.
I don't think I have anything.
All right. Kate.
I don't have anything.
All right. The only thing I have, and Alicia's going to probably talk about this a little later on with our position. We're at the select board meeting last week, and that went well. So that's it on commissioner updates. And then did folks, were everyone able to look at the July 8th minutes?
Yep, no issues for me.
I don't think I had any issues.
All right. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I will move to approve the minutes from July 8th.
I'll second.
Saul, motions to
Yes.
approve. Kate
Yeah,
seconds. When we
Do you have to do a roll call?
and when we do this virtually, we'll do a roll call. So starting with Saul, do you approve?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Pete Church says yes. And we're good with that.
Okay. All right, so this is a vote to actually. So we talked about a new position, the recreation supervisor position. Unfortunately, the timing of it worked out so that I was able to work with the Personnel Advisory Committee and the Select Board before I got to you guys. But the position was graded and approved by the Personnel Advisory Committee on July 31st. And then approved by the Select Board. That was the meeting that Pete was talking about that we went to on August 12th. So I think the last piece of it would be having the Park Commission approve that position. And then if that's approved, we would like to post internally for 7 days.
Any thoughts, discussions? The one thing that the select board had mentioned last week was to make sure that it was not an additional position. Or
It's not,
yeah.
yeah.
And so they, I think they made that question.
Yeah.
No, happy to see it and think is a good step for us.
Creates a good career ladder.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the position and the internal posting?
So moved.
Saul moves. A second?
I'll second.
8 seconds. All right, we'll do roll call again. Saul?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And Pete says yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so this isn't more of like a deep discussion. I think this is more of just giving you guys a heads up of what's kind of coming, since we have to have all the articles in to the town administrator's office by September 14th. So I just kind of wanted to go through a few of these. I know we've talked about some of them. But just to see if there were any additional questions that any of you had on these. The last one, the van, that's something that's actually going to be in spring, but I figured I'd throw it on there, so it was something that you guys were aware of. So the first would be we have to make an amendment to the CPC article for the tennis courts. There's a lot of writing on here, so this was the Article 10. Sorry, Saul, if it's like so this was the article that was put in the November 1st, 2023 special town meeting. And this was the article that requested the $734,000 to be able to do the project to create the tennis courts at the high school. So we have to amend this article because it specifically stated the high school. So we can't use those funds unless they're used at the high school. So we would have to go back through and amend this anyway. So we'll talk about the Activitas a little bit later, because a lot of what happens with this specific article is sort of hitched to what happens tonight at the school board meeting when they're talking about locations, that they're choosing a specific location to build the new Shaker Lane elementary school. One of those sites is a site that would be included in the change to this article. So Whitcomb, we would be looking to incorporate creating I guess premier maybe is a way to say it, but like the main baseball field in town at Whitcomb Field. We would need to add infrastructure such as additional fencing, dugouts, bullpen, pitchers. Why can't I think of the name of that right now? Like a warm-up space. So that's something that if for whatever reason they chose tonight that they were going to actually choose the Whitcomb site, then obviously that would be off the table. The community.
And I think they're not actually going to choose a site. They're going to choose at least three options to be submitted to the MSBA.
Okay.
So I think the most clarity we might get out of tonight is that Whitcomb gets left off that list and is eliminated.
I have heard that is probably likely that when they did their calculations as to like what would be the top site, number 2, number 3, number 4. I guess Whitcomb is at the very bottom.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the strong preference based on what I saw of their meeting of the Shaker Lane building site,
right?
Whatever committee. But there was still some expectation that there would be some pushback from somebody. So if we get clarity, it will be that they're not including it. If they include it, then we're still kind of, I think, somewhat stuck.
Right.
So
we are and we're not. So I think regardless of what happens with Whitcomb, we can still move forward with amending this article. Because the site that we're looking at doing the tennis courts would be the middle school field, which is not a site that's being looked at for the new build for a school. So we could move forward with that, and then if for whatever reason, let's say we weren't able to use Whitcomb, then we would have to look at doing the baseball field back at the high school, which kind of messes up that whole plan of being able to, put all of the soccer fields out at the high school, which would fix a majority of the scheduling issues that we have. Because a lot of what's causing the problems with the scheduling is that, we're using one field for multiple sports, right? So you can't play baseball, soccer, and lacrosse all at the same time. And you certainly can't play baseball and have a soccer field right next to it. That's just not safe. So, by moving that baseball field to Whitcomb and being able to open all of those fields at the high school specifically for soccer, that would be the ideal plan for us to be able to move forward to honestly, it would take the creation of a new field off of our capital request because we would need to do that. The timing on this is not super great, but we're going to keep rolling with it. And I know The town administration's been really helpful, on this whole process and trying to, assist us with whatever we need. So, yeah, so this is one that we will be amending, that will be on this fall's, town meeting. Any other questions about that one? Pretty straightforward. This one, I just wanted to throw this out here. I've been back and forth with our HR director. We need to kind of work out a little bit more. We also need to probably go back to the Personnel Advisory Committee and get their input on this as well. But in the past, our club program, we've had kids that, you know, I say kids from the high school that have worked for us for, say, the fall. Then they take the winter off because they're playing hockey or, you know, something else. And then, you know, maybe they'll come back in spring or after spring sports are over. So there's usually not a consistent, you know, continuous 5 months of work. So those positions were considered to be temporary or seasonal. However, as we're growing that program and we really need to be able to hire staff that's going to be able to be there consistently for the kids, we really need to look at that being something else other than that Schedule C. So Michelle Vibert and I, we've looked at either, you know, we would put it on Schedule A, which is where, you know, the full-time employees from Parks and Rec, that's where we live, or we might put it on something like a Schedule B1, which is just kind of listed as like other employees. So we have to kind of figure out where those are going to fit, but I think that it makes a lot more sense moving those specific job descriptions onto those other schedules on the class and compensation plan. If we do that, it does make them eligible for benefits if they work over the 19, 20 hours. So realistically, I think like the camp lead positions, we would end up calling that the club lead because we also have a camp lead in summertime. So that position probably isn't going to work more than 19 hours a week, because those typically tend to be the high school kids. But the special course coordinator that we would hire, that position more than likely would go over the 20-hour limit. So we would be looking at having to do benefits. That position would become benefits eligible.
Which I would think that, sorry, I would think that might make it more intriguing to some people in town that are looking for positions as well.
Yeah.
Are those, are the benefits paid out of the revolving fund or the general fund?
They would be paid out of the revolving fund. So, yeah, any program, any positions that support the programs, have to be paid for out of the, well, it doesn't have to be, but that's what's been, you know, agreed upon is that, those positions would be paid out of the revolving fund. So yes, the benefits additionally would be, coming out of that as well. So we would have to look at, you know, what that effect would be and how we would need to increase the rates of some of the programs so that, you know, we're able to provide and pay for that.
Do you think it's going to be a significant cost, or is it something that we?
It's hard to say. You know, it depends on a couple of things. The person that takes the position, they're eligible for benefits, but they don't necessarily have to take them, right? So, you know, if they have healthcare with, you know, a parent or, you know, a spouse or something like that, then they may not need healthcare. So it kind of depends on the person and where they're at in their life. Yeah. But we budget to make sure that, you know, to cover everything in case that's what they needed. Any questions about that one? And I'm hoping that we'll be able to, we would have to, have articles drafted pretty far in for the next park commission meeting so that you guys could give an approval to it. Yeah, because like I said, September 14th is the last day. We can still amend and change, but that's the last day that you can actually put in a request for an article.
Are we going back to our regular scheduled meetings?
Yeah, that's on the agenda for old business. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
I'm just thinking, is it something that we're gonna meet before the 14th?
Yeah, so if we do stick to the original plan, the next meeting would be September 10th. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna-
Alicia, question
Yeah.
on the jobs.
Yeah,
For the positions that are qualified as special course coordinator, camp lead, club lead, I guess club lead, since we're talking club, how
Right.
many of those types of positions do we have? How many people are in those roles? Or do
yeah,
we?
that's a great question. So ideally, we would want one special course coordinator. In the past, we have had two people switching on and off in that role. So that is a possibility that we could do that. If we did that, then if they ended up working less hours, then they might not be benefit eligible. So that's just something to consider as well. The camp leads, it really truly depends on how many participants in the program we have. So we have 1 to 10 ratio. So we try to do a little bit more than that since the club, sometimes some will go outside, some will, go down to Castle and Trees, so you need to have a few more staff on hand if you're gonna travel in, 2 separate groups. So typically, it really depends on how many people we would get signed up for the program.
What are we looking like for numbers starting? Because school starts Tuesday.
Yeah, right now, I think we have about around 10 kids. Usually that will pick up. I think this is one of those summers that's ended really quickly. So people are still in vacation mode and not really thinking, oh my God, I haven't figured out after school care yet. So if you are, we have positions, there's spots, you can sign up. So right now it's a little bit slower. But yeah, we're hoping to see an increase over the next week.
Yeah, because that could be tough to staff for, because
Right.
theoretically you could have 1 camp lead right now if there's about 10 kids, but come Wednesday, if all of a sudden there's an influx.
Right.
Yeah.
So typically, even with a group of let's just say we only had 10 kids, we still would have 2 staff. That's just a safety measure for the kids and for the staff, just to make sure that there's enough supervision and if there's any issues, you've got the staff. So we got to 30, then we could get away with having 3 people, right?
Okay.
And going back to the benefits question,
Yeah.
is there a duration, if somebody works 30 hours for 2 months and then 10 hours for 2 months, what is that? How does that work for benefit eligibility?
I honestly think that once they've gone past that 20 mark, even if they would dip down to 10 hours or something, I think they still would be eligible. But I can clarify that with HR. I can't imagine giving somebody benefits for 1 month and then taking it back. That would be odd. So I can clarify.
Yeah, I mean, it
that
seems
with
like a strange arrangement it's hard to understand how it would work and practically. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, realistically, if, we look at somebody we had Greta working for us this past year, And definitely towards the end of the summer, you know, she was doing more than 20 hours. So I think that that's something, it would be really easy for that special course coordinator to achieve that. But I think it'd be really challenging for one of the camp leads too.
So is this something that you are going to be working on and that we'll need to vote on at our next meeting before the 14th deadline?
Yes, I realize I'm like shaking my head and you probably can't see me on the. Yes, so like I said, I've been working with the HR department on this one. I know I think she's out this week. So she'll be back next week. So we'll be able to kind of hit the ground running and kind of focus on what we need to do next steps. So that we could have something ready to go, at least a draft for town meeting,
Okay.
our meeting for you guys.
Okay.
Yep. Anything else?
Oh,
So this was, this is a creation of a PRCE stabilization fund. So this was something I met with our FinCom reps, and their suggestion was that, you know, we create, or you as the Park and Rec Commission, request to create the stabilization fund. So it is something that we can ask. They can create it, and that would allow us to have a specific reserve that would only go towards Parks and Recreation. So the way that would work is that the commission, you guys would need to either choose an amount or a percentage that we earn throughout the year that would be transferred into that revolving stabilization fund each year. And it's good to revisit it because, you know, if for whatever reason, you know, let's say we didn't make any money, right? We don't want to transfer something we don't have. So that's something that I think would be really beneficial for this department, just because, you know, there's a lot of projects that are coming up over the next 5 years, really, really big, expensive projects. And there might not be funds there for us to be able to, you know, maybe do some of these last minute projects, or to be able to do any like reports that we might need, or, you know, anything like that. So, I think it would be beneficial for us to be able to kind of have that as just sort of that rainy day buffer. Because as it's in the revolving account, that's something, you know, that consistently rolls, right? So there's no guarantee, you know, that we're always gonna have that. That's something, if we put it into a stabilization fund, that it's like locked in there, you know, we would have to go to town meeting to vote it, to use it for a project. So, you know, we were looking at different ways to be able to kind of create this reserve fund. And that's the only true way to be able to do it. So that's up to you guys. If you want to do it, we don't necessarily have to. So at the end of this past fiscal year, we had a balance of $945,916 dollars. There was money collected in fiscal year 24 that pays for expenses and wages into fiscal year 25. So that's the, you know, we open registrations for camp in January, right? We take those funds, some of those registrations go past into July. So, you know, we earn that money, and it starts to slow down as we get to the summer, and then the expenses and the wages pick up. So, you know, it needs to be accounted for that there are monies that have been collected that do need to support us in fiscal year 25. So that $608,000 is that price tag, if you will, of funds that we collected that should go to this current fiscal year. So that's money that, you know, we really shouldn't touch that. That's meant to pay for the rest of the salary that's coming. We've got, you know, expenses as far as like bus transportation. We still have field trips and plenty of other things that we still have yet to pay for. And then the other component is, we'll talk about this Activitas report. So that was asked for our department to pay for that from the town administrator's office. So that report is 112,000, 113, we'll just round that up. So that would leave us with about 224,000. That would just be sort of that cushion that we have. So it's just something to think about. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts that you have on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think it allows us to, you know, to have a little bit of excess funds from the programs, set those aside, not hold them in the revolving fund as, you know, either for, you know, for future major purchases or, you know, other projects like that. I think it makes sense to do that. We just need to set up the, you know, the appropriate policies to go with that.
Right. And I did request to meet with Steve Venuti and Fred Faulkner. They just wanted to get an idea of an amount. So, you know, I think I can go and show them this information that, you know, we have. They would leave us that 224,000. So I don't know. I would like to discuss with them a little bit more on, you know, their thoughts, because I mean, Steve is definitely that guru when it comes to all the finances in town. He was the treasurer for forever. And he's still on FinCom. So, you know, I don't know. Do we do something arbitrary like 100,000, or are we more specific on what we're looking for? So, I would,
you know, I think it would be good to have that discussion with them. And I mean, you can have it, maybe we have them come to the next meeting and discuss it further.
okay.
Because they just went through this with all the town stabilization funds in terms of updating that policy. So I think they've had a fair amount of recent discussion about, you know, how to structure them, how to set the guidelines, you know, targets and mins and maxes and those sorts of things.
Okay. Yeah, so I will definitely, I mean, I've already started that conversation with them, but I will follow up with them tomorrow. And see, yeah, if we can meet sometime soon. I can throw the two of you on that meeting as chair and vice chair.
Sure.
And then, yeah, we can hopefully pull something together for the September meeting.
So Alicia, you
Yeah.
mentioned that there's a couple ways to do it. One is a sort of a set sum, the other is a
Like
percentage base.
Mhm.
So, I mean, looking at that number, not that my math strengths are very good, but that's like a little over 20% that's there.
Mhm.
Would we do something a little more conservative and say maybe like a 15% if we want to go
Right.
the percentage route?
Yeah, I think just because the revolving, so this is like the first year we've gotten like solid numbers on the revolving. I think it would make sense to be a little bit more conservative. It's tough with the line of work that we do. It's not like the light and water department, right? Everybody needs light, everybody needs water. I think, and I feel that everybody needs recreation,
Yeah.
but not everybody feels that way.
Or the weather plays a part.
And the weather plays a part too. So there's a lot of different things that can affect when we look at the end of the year finances, there were some projects that we did that we weren't expecting to do. So, those kind of things pop up over the course of the years and, yeah, so I think it would make sense to be a little bit more conservative and then see how we're doing, and that can always be changed, increased, amended.
Yeah.
In future years. Yeah.
Kate's got her hand up.
Okay, yes.
Yes, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I did want to ask.
Yeah.
For my own knowledge, it would be helpful to understand too, are there tax benefits to having money in the stabilization fund versus a revolving fund? Is there a better interest rate, or is it both of that? And it might be easier for us to get the town to vote to allow us to use money in stabilization fund for projects versus revolving fund. So that I don't know the answers to those questions. Those are some I would have off the top of my head as to, I'm guessing that's why we would want to do the stabilization versus leaving it in the revolving, but I don't know the answers.
I mean, I guess the difference between the two is that if it's in the stabilization, it's locked. I don't know about the, can you invest that? That is a question that I definitely have, that I would like to know if that's a possibility on that. Because that would be great to be able to, have that money set aside and then, grow it.
Right.
I don't know if that's available to us or to those specific types of funds. And being municipal, I don't think taxes is really anything that's gonna, affect either way. But I think that's the big one, is that it's set aside and can't be like commandeered or used for anything other than Park and Rec project.
I think the other thing is just the revolving fund is not intended to be a savings
account.
vehicle, right?
It is not.
It's an account to bring in revenue and pay out expenses, not really a storage spot. So I think that's kind of if you want to hold money, you need to do something else with it.
It's
Yeah,
more checking versus savings, but we're not sure.
Something like that, yeah.
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 So, and then the other thing would be in terms of hopefully that would mean that the town would be supportive if we had this money in this stabilization and it was proven that Parks and Rec needed to spend that money, that it would be easier to, fingers crossed, get that passed through and a meeting to be able to purchase.
Well,
Whatever.
that's that, when you can go to a town meeting and say, hey, we've got this project and we can put X amount towards it. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's always going to be appreciated because you're trying to be fiscally responsible and saying, hey, we are trying here's, what we can offer.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so yeah, I will get back to you guys on what comes of that conversation. And this one, I'm just gonna go through this really quickly because this is gonna be a spring town meeting. So typically let's see. So typically, if you've had money for 3 years, they'll usually ask for those funds back if you haven't spent them. So I feel like we're kind of, we're not quite at that place, but we are getting there close to with the van funds. So we did receive $37,000 to purchase a 12-passenger van at the spring town meeting in 2022. At that time, this is when I believe like Ford had those fields of vehicles that had been created, but there were no chips to go into anything. So there was a huge shortage. These vans apparently have to be like special ordered and specially built, and they're always So we were on a list for probably about a year and a half and still never got to a place where we came up for being on a list to be approved to get a van built. So at this point, 37,000 honestly is not going to buy us a 12-passenger van. Vehicles have really gone through the roof. So I think it's something that we will need to look at coming back, whether we amend or, you know, give that money back. I'm not sure, but the concept that we've been throwing around, we had jokingly been throwing around, but now we're serious about it is, you know, do we need to purchase a bus? Is that something that makes more sense, especially, you know, if we're going to be moving to 36 King Street? We do need to follow up and have a conversation about a memorandum of agreement or understanding about the usage of 36 King Street. And maybe that's time to talk about potential busing, if that's something that could happen through the schools. In that case, then obviously we wouldn't need to buy a bus. But, you know, if it gets to a place where, you know, they're not going to be using Shattuck Street at all anymore for town hall, and we do have to get into the business of transporting kids, we, you know, really truly need to figure that out and figure it out ahead of time before it becomes like an absolute necessary where it's like, we just can't run programs because we can't get the kids there. So this is not, we don't have to get into a deep discussion on it tonight. It's just a heads up that this is something we'll have to look at moving forward into 2025. So.
Alicia, can I ask,
Yeah.
has there been any more communication related to an MOU with the school department yet?
No. No. So yeah, that I think so overall, right? There we had the MOU years ago about using space, you know,
Yeah.
us maintaining the fields and being able to use space internally. But now that we're, you know, gaining this building that we're going to be using together, I think it's, you know, even more important to really make something happen. And whether they're two separate agreements, you know, that's a possibility. Perhaps it can be combined. I don't know. But yeah, I think before we're going to move in there, we really should have something, you know, drafted pretty heavily.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay. All right. So this one, I don't know where I really want to go with this conversation. I think ultimately, we do have a contract with Activitas that we can sign, we can go into agreement with. They are on a state bid list, so this isn't something that we would, you don't necessarily have to go out to bid. So the contract, I did send it out to you guys. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it or not, but essentially the scope of work would be, you know, looking at the engineering for building that tennis court on the middle school property, and then the amendments that we talked about to Whitcomb Field, or if Whitcomb Field is thrown out, then, you know, that would move over to the high school. So again, this is kind of like a poor timing thing. You know, we really need to get this report done so we can figure out what an exact amount would be for the article that we would need to change at town meeting. Because I'm kind of under the impression that since we would be now using a site that's completely flat, it's not on a slope, right? We're not trying to redo any sort of stormwater management when it comes to, you know, reorganizing a parking lot, restriping a parking lot. So there's a lot of things that were specific to the high school location that will not be issues here. So my hope is that the ultimate build for those tennis courts would be under that 734,000 that we've already obtained through the CPC funds at town meeting. So, but we need to know what those costs are going to be. So creating this report with Activitas, so not only will they do coming up with an actual design, they will also create a cost estimation of what both of those projects would be. And they will also assist us in setting up the RFP and getting contractors in to start that work. So there's a lot of work that they would be providing us that would really give us a leg up on being able to get this done in a timely manner. So, you know, if we had the ability to kind of wait and, you know, we weren't too worried about not having enough tennis courts, you know, we technically could wait till, you know, the next town meeting and say, you know, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought here. My apologies.
Ask for the design funding at the next town meeting.
For, yeah, the design, right? But right now, we kind of need that, we need that amount to be able to move forward at this next town meeting. So, yeah, we're kind of stuck in this place.
So, and this is why they're saying that we need to pay for it as opposed to bringing it to town.
So, you know, there are funds in there to be able to do it. It's not ideally what I'd like to use those funds for, you know, but if that's what's going to get the project back on track, then, you know, that's something I think that we should consider that. Another suggestion, I know Tim has been working with Jonathan at Activitas to you know, create this contract. Another suggestion that I heard from Stephen Nudie last night was, you know, maybe we just focus on the tennis courts now, get a cost for what that's going to be, pay for that, and then we can follow up and do the baseball field. But I would hate to put that project farther behind too, because it really is, if we're going to come up with this thoughtful solution for the fields, we really do need to consider both of those projects. Yeah. So, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
Kind of like the chicken and eggs.
I know, it really is.
Many concerns, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm still struggling with this being our project.
I hear you.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And, you know, I think maybe there does need to be some discussion with the TA, and I don't know if it's the school board or the administration, but, you know, essentially along the same lines of, if we're going to front this and, you know, take the lead on supporting it, then, you know, we kind of need the same arrangement with the tennis courts as we have with the fields, where we can manage the time, obviously giving them the time they need for school programs first, but yeah, that we can manage that and get some, you know, revenue back with programs and other things, to you know, replenish these funds, and not have it go the way of other things where they take complete control, and then we're,
Right.
you know, we're sort of stuck.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, sort of with that caveat, I think, you know, it's something that the town needs to do, and I don't want to, you know, sort of turn it into petty turf fight over who does it how, but I also do think we need to make sure we're able to make use and get some of these funds back eventually.
Do you have time next week to potentially meet with either Ryan or Jim? I can see if I can set up a meeting.
I think so.
Okay, because time is kind of the essence on this one.
Right. Yeah, my life has been a little bit terrible lately, but I think I am back in town next week.
Okay, nomadic Saul.
I have not seen a lot of my house, let's put it that way.
Oh. Okay, so I'll check in with you. I'll send out an email tomorrow to all the parties and see if we can get some sort of sit down.
Okay.
All right.
But I think sure, at least in my mind, as long as we can get some assurance that we have a path back, then I think I'm okay with it. As you say, it's not the ideal use, but
Right.
if it clears a roadblock and makes things better for the town, then I think it's the right thing to do.
Right, exactly.
Is there a hue and cry right now from the town about getting courts again? I mean, I would think that people are concerned about.
It's like it comes and goes in different waves. I think we heard a lot about it when they started building, obviously when they destroyed them.
Yeah.
We heard about it then, and I think people just found other outlets. But one of the big issues with removing those courts is that it does affect the schools where it's a MIAA requirement that you at least have 4 tennis courts to be able to hold any sort of competitions with other schools. And right now we have 2.
Yeah.
So, realistically, this should have been included in the whole senior, center project and figure out, okay, well, we're going to take this, so can we fix it elsewhere?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that was not.
Is the school, can school help offer up some money for that?
We've asked, and, typically we get our budget set, we don't really have anything. And, I know the town's definitely in that situation too. So that's kind of where it comes down to, but you guys have a little bit of money. So, yeah.
Yeah. The tricky one.
It is. Yeah. So, we'll follow up and we'll do that, conversation, with town administration and see, what we can done with that.
Especially tricky when we could be easily looking at that type of money or more for a bus.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. If and that's one of the things, it's like, if we're gonna put this in for, essentially this is helping the school department, I would imagine they would maybe try to help us out with the transportation costs, or a transportation issue that we are now having. So yeah, I don't know. That's, yeah. Okay. What else? Let's see. Just a really quick sports council update. So they did meet last week. Whoops, went too fast. And all of the fall field schedule is sorted out. So we're all good for that. And they have been talking about this project, the tennis courts, baseball field project. And, everybody is very supportive of that and they would like to see that. So I think that's something, when we go to town meeting, we should have, constituents from those, sports organizations that will be there to support that, project if, we're making those amended changes. So, that's just kind of a nice thing to know. And, it's extremely appreciative that they've been so supportive of all of this. So updates on 36 King Street. So some pictures here, I know they look a little kind of funny here. So that very top one, there is a stone column and a wooden part. So all of those, there were 4 of them that went down in the basement of the building. So in that bottom photo, they have all been removed. So they're going to be putting the footings in and placing steel within like the next, I think it's next 2 weeks. So that will all be fixed, which is amazing. Like the transformation of some of the stuff there is just unbelievable. They've done such a great job. They're estimating the approximate move-in to be around the end of February. So that's up a little bit more. It was March in the past. They have completely redone the roof. That's already done, checked off the list. And the exterior siding and trim is taking a little bit longer. They're finding a lot of rot in some places because the gutter structure was very interesting. I'll just put it that way. So there was definitely places where water was just, falling from the gutter straight down, going through the rock and then, sort of drilling right into the wall. So, that's one of the things that they will amend is putting, proper gutters up around the whole building. But it's taking them a while to sort of dig in and see, you pull back a little bit more and you find a little bit more. And so, they're kind of in that process with the siding. But as far as the schedule goes, they're looking to do that exterior paint as soon as they possibly can. And then that would hopefully finish by the last week of September. Then that means they can kind of focus on the inside of the building. And fix that. So, yeah, it's been really interesting week after week to kind of go in there and have the meetings and see everything change. It's definitely a fascinating project. And as I mentioned earlier, just setting up a meeting so we can discuss an MOU for that building, sooner than later. So.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
School's probably pretty busy right now, but like beginning of September, maybe to do that.
Possibly, yeah. So schools will start 27th, so next week. I think if you give them a couple of weeks just to sort of work out all of the kinks, then yeah, it might make sense to set something up. Right. Tennis court, we talked about that. So yeah, all of those things we've already gone through. Nothing new that I haven't already mentioned. Special events. So every year we have the Denise Flaherty Pegasic fundraiser. It's a cornhole tournament that they do at the Tiki Bar over at the Neshoba Ski Hill. And the benefits for this go to, some of the funds will go towards helping the youth scholarship. So this is a really great event. It's a lot of fun. It's been going on for quite a few years. Ivan's wife had passed, so that was Denise. And Ivan used to be one of our park commissioners. So it was really important for her to definitely get the kids involved in sports. And so it's just a really nice way to be able to celebrate her and hopefully give back to the community as well. So I know they're doing registrations for that right now. So, just get that information out there if folks are interested in wanting to do a cornhole tournament. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
What's the cost? I can't see the red. What's the cost?
Yeah, okay. So to do cornhole and to get food for a team, it's $200. If you just want to take the kids and you just want to do food, it's $50 for an adult and $10 for kids. So if you just want to go hang out and watch the tournament, you can do that. There's live music, cash bar, all that stuff. It's a activity for the kids. It's a good day. It's a lot of fun. We do have our date locked in for Oktoberfest, so that's kind of the save date. So it'll be Saturday, September 28th, and it will be at 550 King, the old IBM parking lot, just where we had it last year. So it'll be nice to maybe get one more year in there. We'll see. Yeah, so definitely put that on the books. And we're moving right along with the planning of that. And then the last special event that's upcoming is we kind of took over this Whip King tournament. So Joe Knox, resident here in Littleton, he's on the Light and Water Commission, used to be a select board member. He used to do this tournament all the time. And so it's something that kind of, died out over the last couple of years. And he had talked to Kaz about kind of bringing it back. So we're going to give it a go this year. We're going to do it on Columbus Day and see how it goes. Again, this should be a really great time. It's, all fun and recreation. It's we're not looking at Little League super super, I can't even think of the words I'm looking for, but it's just a fun day. So registrations for that are open, and you can purchase teams. I think there might be individual as well. That's more of kind of a Kaz question, but so we're excited to be able to bring back this tradition to Littleton. I think it'll be a good time.
What's the size of a wiffle ball team?
I should know that, and I do not. This is like where I need Kaz. Hold on, I'll ask.
No, that's quite all
The
right.
Google A's.
I mean, grew up playing wiffle ball, and
Right?
depended on how many people we had to play. So could
It's
be
funny.
2, could be 8.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I'm like, you just play baseball with a wiffle ball, right? And he's like, no, like that's not how it works. There's like zones. It's kind of it's just like a totally different sport. It's interesting. Look this up. How many players? 1 to 5, it says. I can't imagine playing by yourself. How would that work?
Yeah.
So we'll go with 5.
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right, there you go. Okay. Director update. So just 3 things to kind of go through. So the postcards are completed. They're in the office. We're going to be mailing those out next week. So hopefully they'll be in homes by August 29th. And the digital brochure for fall and winter will be available to the public August 29th. We do have a lot of programs open right now. So, if anyone's interested in registering prior to that, all of the programs are up and are open right now. But the brochure is usually where we kind of do our big push of trying to advertise the programs and get people to sign up for them. So, so that's should be completed within this next week. So our fiscal year 2024. So I said in July we'd come back in August and kind of look at the overall for fiscal year 24. So this is about as tight as it gets. We're right on 50-50. So ultimately, we did come under a little bit, 14,000. My numbers are not coming out tonight. Sorry, guys. We do still have funds in that are going to get rolled over in the revolving. So, we'll be able to cover those costs. But some of the reasons that we kind of came under was, we did have some of these unexpected costs. We paid for the beach walkway, that was kind of like a passion project, you know, we pushed through. That was just under 30,000. And then we had some electrical work at the beach and town hall that kind of popped up. So, you know, that was 2,300, and, we had some plumbing issues, at the beginning of, opening up the lake for the summer. So, you know, with that, essentially, you know, we had, 31,000, almost 32,000 in unexpected costs. You know, so if we hadn't had those costs, we would have made a net last year. But overall, I mean, to come in, you know, 50-50 is it's tight, but that's pretty close to, you know, what we have done in the past, as well as being really close as far as, you know, we're not overcharging for our programs, you know, we're paying the staff, we're getting the supplies that we need. So it's a pretty good balance. Obviously going into next year, we want to be in the net. We don't want this to be a trend where we consistently are down like 15,000 every year. So, you know, we're really going to be monitoring everything and making sure that, we definitely come out with positive for the next fiscal year. But, yeah, there, like I said, there's the funds that, are already in there. So, you know, at the end of fiscal year, we rolled that 945,000 into over into fiscal year of 2025. So yeah, so we're still doing okay. But like I said earlier, there's about 600, what was it, $603,000 that's dedicated to fiscal year 25. So yeah, I mean, there's money there, but we do need to be really careful and cognizant, as we, you know, move on into the future. Any questions on any of those? This I just wanted to update since we did that MOU.
Sorry, I was muted and started talking.
Oh. Yeah, what you got?
No, I was just saying, I mean, these are hard numbers to make sense of, and you know, I think one of the things that we should do sort of as the programs wrap, you know, because what we're looking at is basically most of the expenses for summer of 23 camping activities and the revenue from summer of or spring of 24 camp activities balancing out. And
Right.
I think over, you know, as we sort of close them out, it would be good to do, you know, the balance sheet for Camp T for this year and for the beach and things like that.
Mhm.
Just so we can have that picture of, you know, or because you know, saying that last year's expenses and this year's revenue balance is not really fair to anybody. So we just got to make sure it works out.
Okay. Yeah, I can have, I know Kaz has all of those, so I could actually have them come to the next meeting and do a presentation if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, we had, you guys had signed that MOU with, the TA. So I've been meeting with him on a weekly basis. And these were just, 4 goals that he added on to, my, goals for the year. And I mean, he and I talked through this stuff. I just figured I'd throw it out here so you guys could see. But you know, most of the stuff we already do, or I've been in the process of creating, working with the Treasury to create tools that will help me do that. So to reconcile my revenue to Munis every month. So that's a tool that, I've been working with Kim and Robin on. We're doing that, making sure that we're balancing that out every month. So we are doing that. Analyze all programs for profit and loss. So that was something that we were doing before with the spreadsheet that Steve Venuti had given me. So we'll get back into the habit of doing that, especially as we're doing the reconciliation. That will be really helpful to look at that. Reviewing the expenses for the year on a quarterly basis. And ensuring the spending limits are voted at town meeting or followed. I totally agree with that. So I think that's something, we'll happily do that. I think that's the only one that's a little bit different. And then the payroll, that's something we already have been doing. We did actually work with Kim to create a new tie-out sheet. So we have been implementing that over the last few payrolls. But it says on here, have 2 people in the department capable of entering payroll. But we've got Kelsey's able to, Mel, myself, and Tim. So we've got 4. Yeah, I think they're all reasonable goals, and we're either I'm either making strides towards completing them already, or we're already doing them. So yeah, I'm okay with those. Any thoughts from any of you guys?
Were you sort of in your meetings with the TA? Were you talking about these, and that's how we formulated them, or did they come out of the blue and say?
He just kind of, had sent me an email saying, hey, these are the ones, goals I'd like to see from you. So, we can discuss them the next time that we meet.
And in your meetings, have there been discussions of the goals that we set out?
No, not yet. Yeah.
I will.
I did send him my evaluation from you guys, so he does have a copy of that.
Yeah, I think it probably would be appropriate for either he and I to meet, or the 3 of us to meet and discuss those.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, when I can stay at my house for more than 2 days at a time, I will try to set something up.
Fair dues. All right. So the new business, Clean Lakes meeting was last night. They were asked to review their estimated budget for the next 5 years. Pete, I did make a copy for you because you're physically here. The rest of you guys, I can actually scan it and send it over. I didn't feel like it was right to just send it, I just got last night, and say, hey, make sure you review this for the meeting tonight. So I can send it over, you can peruse it when you get a chance. But the big overviews are that, the select board is supportive of being able to trying to work them into the budget. The town needs to work out how and how much they're going to be able, to help. LELWD, they've been providing staff assistance for the committee, and also funding projects that involve any areas that have wells that affect, drinking water. So, and that's something that they've agreed that they will continue that support into the coming years. They have said, though, they will be using CPC funds for projects in the future. I think the big catch there is just making sure that they're actually projects and not ongoing maintenance. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I would say the budget that they gave is not like massively detailed. It just kind of gives an overview of, fiscal year 25 overall, like they're expecting to spend almost $286,000. And that's, between Spectacle Pond, Lake Mattawanakee, Long Lake, Mill Pond, and Doble Pond. And then there's overall things such as like water quality testing and things like that. So yeah, it seems like the costs will sort of go up and down over the years. I think that, you know, they brought a couple other projects that they didn't include on this that seem important, so it would be nice to see them add those in. So I think this is just a start of conversation. It's not something that, you know, no decisions were made, no commitments were made. It was just sort of a, you know, hey, where are you at? What do you need? And then we'll go back and try to figure out how we can help you. So, yeah, it was a pretty, just high level view of everything. Any questions on that one?
Is there a select board member at the meeting?
Yeah, there were 3. So Mark Rombacher was there, Chuck DeCoste, and Karen Morrison. I think it's Morrison.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morrison.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, the 3 of them were there. Anything else?
No, the only thing I would say is that, you know, if there is a place for us to be helpful, particularly around Long Lake, I think,
Right.
you know, we should look for that. Since keeping that a healthy lake is fairly critical to our activities and mission. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
quickly, Muck Island removal
Go
in
ahead.
Long Lake, so is that, a spot of, kind of an island of mud somewhere?
Yeah, it was interesting hearing them talk about it because it sounds like there's gases that are escaping and then collecting that matter around it. So like if you would actually, like if there's like a small little blob and you touched it, it would probably, like, the gas would escape and then the silt would go, you know, back to the bottom. But a lot of the ones, they're more on, it's not Lake Shore, it's the other one that goes that way. So the ones that are along the side of that road, they're just a lot more dense. And they're just going to keep growing.
Yeah.
So unless they actually do something, you know, those will just keep growing in size. So, you know, they do want to be able to focus on completing that work and getting it done. And hopefully, you know, the question that came up is like, well, when will they return? You know, will they return? And I don't think anybody necessarily knows. But, you know, we don't do anything, then it'll just keep growing and take over.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Anything else on that one? And then the last one is just reviewing the schedule for I did all the way through fiscal year 25. I mean, typically we kind of come back in January or December and do the rest of the year. But I figure, you know, we might as well just look at the rest of this fiscal year and see what makes sense. So, you know, if we stick with our regular schedule, we'd be looking at the second Tuesday of every month, which is listed here. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw that out and see if there's any issues or questions. How did I put?
is there something on the 8th that you?
Yeah,
moved to
that's
the
what I
second?
wanted to look and see. Oh, that's why. So I've got to go to the UK for a wedding. I will be back on the 6th. I'm fine with doing it on the 8th. I don't think there's any problem, but it doesn't give me a whole lot of time to turn around to, you know, Tim would have to put in the agenda, and then like minutes and stuff. I'd have to try to get that done way in advance, but that's all doable. So it's up to you guys if you wanted to do the 8th or the 15th,
What is Columbus Day, the 14th?
14th. Yeah.
I mean, I don't, I don't have a strong preference either way. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my
We can-
calendar.
What's that?
I'm looking at my calendar to see.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I would have a preference either.
Okay. And we can, just revisit this at the next one if, hopefully we have Kevin and Scott.
I was gonna say, yeah, we should check in with
Yeah.
both of them to make sure that Tuesday at 6:30 is still a good time for everybody because we're
Yeah.
certainly. I mean, the summer's a challenge. We've been struggling to get everybody there, so it'd be good to get a few meetings with the full group.
Yeah. All right, so I'll send out, just trying to think if it makes more sense to do like a survey or a doodle poll. I'll figure it out.
Or, I mean, maybe just send this out as a tentative list.
Yeah, I could do that,
Yeah.
and then let me know what you're thinking.
Yeah, ask for feedback.
Okay,
I like the 6:30, I mean,
yeah,
are you guys good with 6:30 as well?
I am, yeah.
I think for the most part, as long as I remember to stop working in time.
It's a good reminder. We need to send you a little
yeah,
meeting coming in half an hour. Stop working.
okay, all right, so I'll send that out too. Great. And then that is every year at the end of the year, we take one big photo of all the Camp T staff. So that is our, summer 2024 Camp T staff. Yeah. It's crazy how fast the summer has gone. I just can't believe it. But yeah, it's been a really great summer and, all these kids are just, really fantastic with, the youth that are in the program. And yeah, it's a very special thing for sure.
Oh, now that you put that up, I do have my commissioner update, which is I stopped in at the end of season barbecue and
nice.
awards, and it was great to see the energy and support of all the staff for each other. It seems like a really great group. Tim put on a fantastic show with the food. So it was a great event for everybody.
That is all I have, my friends.
All right, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
All right, I guess we have to go via the virtual votes here. Saul,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Pete is yes.
All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.